First of all, it's an honor to chat with both of you. Karen, I'm a huge fan of your work. I have been a fan since I was a little girl. So when I got
Oh,
this opportunity to interview you, I was like, oh, yeah, of course, yes. So I want to know for both of y'all, what was it like working together and how was that process? Mother and son. Sometimes, I mean, it's always great to work with family. I work with my family too sometimes, but sometimes, you could have different ideas. Yeah, being family. Tell us about that process from both.
it was an amazing process with Tyler. Tyler he's been writing for a while. We've written 5 books together, the Baxter Family Children's series, so that was fun. So we have some experience at how the kind of, how does the plan go? How does the relationship work when we're writing? And we come together to have an outline and we agree on that. We hash it out. Like, sure, he might think, well, I think episode 1 should end with this. And I think, oh, we shouldn't give that away till episode 2. But we somehow, we come to an agreement. And then Tyler takes the first draft. So we're not like together writing that would probably not be good.
Yeah, yeah, definitely not. It's good to have a good roadmap. We outline and we know
Yeah.
what we want, and then I take it and work with it. And I think at the end of the day, we both just really want to serve the story.
Yeah, and can you guys tell us how this story came about? I mean, it was pretty intense, and actually talking to Rose about it, I was just like, so many people are going to be relating to, I think it's Allie is her character name, correct?
Yes.
In different formats, especially when it comes to health issues, which a lot of people have today, as well as the spiritual aspects and a lot of things. So where did this story come about?
So I wrote the book, several years ago, and I had run into this woman, and she was really having a hard day. She was upset, and she told me that she and her son had gone to the cemetery to visit the grave where her son's wife was buried. And this woman was pretty young. I said, "Your son must be young," and she said, "Yeah." It's just my daughter-in-law was only 24, and I said, "I'm so sorry. What happened?" And she said, "Well, she had cystic fibrosis." Which I knew about. My husband's a basketball coach and he had a player with CF. So I was aware that it shortens your life and it makes every day is very hard just to breathe. It's just very hard. And I thought, oh my goodness, like that's so sad. She said, "Well, more than that, my son gave her one of his lungs." And I said, "Oh my goodness." So he gave her one of his lungs and it didn't work. She said, "No, it worked. They knew it would only buy them 3 years." So I was like, okay, Lord, what is that love that is so intense that you would give someone a lung for 3 years? And kind of did the math. That's like 1,000 tomorrows, to buy 1,000 tomorrows. So I knew I had to write a love story about it. And then a few weeks later, I was sharing a flight with one of the top bull riders in the world. And I ended up going and sitting by him and hearing about bull riding. And it wasn't until I got off the plane that I thought, oh, what would it take to make a bull rider like that kind of a guy? You cut open his chest and take a lung out for 3 years of love. And then, Allie being a sick barrel racer was just kind of like, she's living the way she wants to live. It's not the best place for her to be. So it was always one of my favorite love stories. And it wasn't the thickest novel I've ever written. It was a little bit smaller novel. So to get to tell the story in 6 episodes means that we don't have to leave anything out. And we can really, I think Tyler could talk about the rodeo aspect and how we get to really play into that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that the rodeo is so visceral. There's like the dust and the cheering and all that competition, and so it was really exciting to get into it and to live with it for almost all 6 of the episodes.
Yeah.
And see how a hard bull rider like Cody starts to let his walls fall down for someone so mysterious and guarded as Allie.
Yeah, actually, I like the bull riding aspect of it. I mean, Texas Girl, I think it's coming out at the perfect time because I think we're in the middle of our rodeo. Yeah. So I was like, oh, I relate to a lot of this. So that was interesting for me. And what you said about the love story, Karen, about it just being this guy was willing to give up something for, periods of just, if he knew, how long, I could have this woman. That's almost like the love that Jesus has for us. He laid down his whole life. He gave up something for us. And I think that that's what comes from true love. And I think I read an interview that you did with TBN talking about your love story and how interesting it was. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I met this guy who was, again, at the health club, we were working out, and he was just so handsome and so kind. And we got to talking, and in LA, meeting a guy who wasn't into partying, and he was just a really clean cut guy. So after 3 hours, we had a few friends in common that we found out, and then he wanted to go on a date. But he said, "Is it okay if I bring my Bible with me, and maybe we can read something from the Bible?" And I was like,
What a guy.
what? Like, I'd never opened the Bible. I mean, I believed in God, but I didn't have a relationship with Jesus. I definitely did not know about the word of God. So anyway, I wasn't discerning to it. He brought it. I was kind of rolling my eyes, and I think he was like, oh, it's not going too well. So I said, can we be good? Like, go to the movie and get on with the date. So he, went ahead, put the Bible away, but he kept bringing it out for like the next 3 months. And we just would fight about it. He wasn't trying to fight. He was just so excited. He was just discovering. He was on a quest. Like, he's like, there has to be more to life than what I see in the shallow life that my friends are living and I was living. And there has to be something more. So anyway, finally, after 3 months, we were having a discussion, and he was being very kind and very gentle. He was not trying to force it on me at all. And I took his beautiful highlighted, underlined Bible, and I threw it on the ground and broke it in half. And so it was like that moment where I thought the world's, the earth's going to open up and I'll be the first person, on the staircase down to hell, kind of thing. So he picked up the broken pieces. I went to my first visit to a Christian bookstore, bought a Bible, bought a concordance so I could look up words. I wanted to defend my worldview, which was not a Christian worldview, and I couldn't. And in the car that day, I felt God was saying to me, you can either fall away with all your man-made beliefs, or you can grab onto my word and never let go. And so I grabbed on. I've been in love with God's word ever since. And the guy forgave me, and now we've been married 35 years. So my husband and I been blessed to raise 6 kids, and Tyler's the oldest of our sons.
Oh, how sweet. My parents just celebrated their 35 years, like I think 2 or 3 days ago. So yeah, it's amazing what the Lord can do, and how he, already saw it, where your career is now, and how you're impacting everyone for the gospel through your projects. Like, it's amazing. And I can relate to the LA life. I lived there for a while, and I liked how I believe you started out where you were in journalism for a while, right before you what you're doing now. Yeah. And it's amazing because you were able to take that creative aspect of what you're doing out there and interviews and all of that, and turn it into what you are doing now. Okay, so people always assume that some people are really good at writing in all different types of genres. Others just like, no, I'm just better at just interviewing and asking questions, but I'm not good at creating stories and content. And how did you make that transition so successfully?
Well, for me, and I think this is probably true for you too, like, he wasn't a journalist, but like my dream, 10 years old, 12 years old, 14, was always to write best-selling fiction. And back then I was reading, secular fiction. I didn't know anything. I didn't know the difference really, obviously. But I knew that I wanted to tell those stories. So being a journalist was always plan B for me. It was like a way to make money. You have to make money too. So it was like a way to have a job. And then still my dream was to write stories and I'd be a best-selling novelist. So the transition was fairly easy. I actually came to really love my plan B. I enjoyed being a journalist, and, especially as a believer, I just felt like God put me on mission on so many different places and kinds of stories where people were grieving or in the middle of an emergency, and I could pray with people. I got to rescue somebody once. Like, I enjoyed it, but certainly when the time came to just like write that first novel, it took a year to get it published, but that was always where my heart was.
Yeah, and obviously it paid off. And now you have your son right here who's doing stuff with you. And can you tell us about what inspired you to follow, I guess, in the footsteps of your mom, and tell us about what you're doing next?
Yeah, I mean, I just loved watching her create when I was growing up, watching her outline, or we'd be at dinner and she'd say, all right, I have a story idea, this guy falls in love with this girl. And it was just so interesting to me, the whole concept of storytelling. So whether I was writing short stories when I was growing up, or making my siblings be in plays I would write, I was always creating. And so the opportunity to work with her came up, a little bit after college. And it was a dream opportunity to learn from someone who I've been learning from my whole life, but also to collaborate and just to tell stories with her. So it's been a great learning place and a great collaborative space. And, I do music, and I also do acting and film and directing. And so there are those things happening too, but writing and getting to work with her is just a huge, huge blessing, and I'm having the best time.
Yeah, next is so exciting is that we just filmed our first movie. We opened Kingsbury Productions, and that meant that we wrote the script, but Tyler directed the movie. We got to have control over the whole thing, and that will be coming out this fall. So we're super excited about that, called Someone Like You.
Oh, I'm excited, and I hope we get to do this interview again because you guys are great. And I want to say one thing. I know a lot of times in Hollywood they'll compare the parent to the child, and I don't see this anybody doing that because I see you guys as very complementary. That's yeah,
Thank
complimentary.
you.
That's what I see. Like you guys work together and it goes, and talent just come together, and it's just perfect. So I'm really excited. Well, it's the truth, and I'm excited to see what you guys are going to be having coming up soon, especially for the film in the fall. So
Yes.
We would love to do this again. That would be great.
absolutely, and I know we got to wrap up, but thank you guys so much for chatting with me. I really, really enjoyed it. It went by so fast. I wish you'd have had longer, but
I know.
Fast.
So
I know. If
fast.
you're ever out in Nashville, you'll have to look us up.
oh, love Nashville. Okay, I will.